Hi, in this video we're going to discuss the 6 best charts to time the Bitcoin macro cycle. So to find out, is Bitcoin now over the months and over the years comparatively cheap or comparatively expensive? And the link to all of those charts will be in the video description. So let's not waste any time and jump right in. Over here, we've got the Bitcoin logarithmic regression curve. It's very likely you have already seen this before. It's simply a long-term chart starting from when Bitcoin was just a few cents all the way to today. And we see in the early days, Bitcoin tended to grow quicker than it is now, right? This slope of this line is decreasing. And for most of the time, we have been within this trend channel. The only time when we exited the lower band over here was during the Corona crash, where we went down around 30% below this lower band. So the lower band was at 7.5K and we went down to 5K. Now, there's two interesting things about this. First of all, where are we currently? We are currently comparatively cheap, right? So the middle point is at almost 66,000. What's also interesting is what's the slope of this line actually? How quickly is this increasing? So if we just buy and hold and we don't bother around timing anything, right? If we just buy and hold, what's our expected return? Given we buy at the same kind of valuation where we then sell. So the slope of this trend channel is currently at around 72% per annum. So it used to be more, right? But right now we are at 72%. That's the current long-term expected appreciation of Bitcoin. Now in this video, we are not just going to talk about price charts. We're also going to talk about on-chain data. So what's actually happening on the blockchain itself, who's buying, who's selling, and what kind of information can we extract from that. And this chart looks at how many people, how many wallets have been holding Bitcoin for at least 1 year. So that's the 1 year plus hodl wave. So again, in blue, we see the Bitcoin price, and then in yellow, we see the percentage of wallets that held Bitcoin for at least 1 year. So we can see when there's a big rally, that there's more activity happening. People are selling. Wallets that have been dormant for a while are selling into the rally. And we also see something similar here in the year 2020, right? When we went from 10K to 50K, 60K. There was some kind of a sell-off from long-term holders. And what's interesting around this in order to time this is, over the very long term, this trend is increasing, right? When we just look here at this yellow line, we make higher highs and higher lows over the long term. So people tend to just hold Bitcoin and not sell it anymore. What we can also see is whenever we are particularly high on this value, it seems like we have some kind of a level of restricted supply. And so that then drives the price up, right? A lot of people just hold it, they don't sell. And so there's no supply in the market driving up the price. Then the supply does hit the market. And the more long-term holders we get, the more people that simply buy in over the long term, the tighter the supply gets. And so when we look at August, September of 2020, we had an all-time high again, right? This is higher, this level here, than the level here in January 2016. So we had an all-time high. 64% of all of Bitcoin's wallets have not seen any movements of their coins. And that then preceded the next rally. And so where are we currently? We are not at an all-time high yet, right? We are at 60%. And one might expect that in case we do see an all-time high here again, maybe not 64%, but maybe we can reach to say 66, 67, 68%. Once we get a new all-time high in this 1 year plus hodl wave, maybe at that point in time, we can again see a major rally in Bitcoin, because then the supply again is in comparatively strong hands. Let's go back to a price-related chart and let's analyze where the potential floor might be. So let's say we are now looking at the bearish scenario and Bitcoin cannot directly move up from here, right? There will be more sideways trading, more downwards trading. It's required that more long-term holders enter the market. How low could Bitcoin potentially fall? And in order to answer this, we will look at the 200-week moving average, or in other words, the 4-year moving average, right? It's pretty close to 4 years. Over here, again, we've got the Bitcoin price, and this smoothened line over here is the 200-week. And then we've got a bit of color coding going on here. It simply shows how far is the price currently extended from that moving average. So it seems like once we are very far extended, we might pull back somewhat. Once we are very close to this 200-week moving average, we might rather increase in price again. Now the current level, the current absolute bottom, let's zoom in over here, it is at 19.6K. So that's quite a bit of a way down, right? From 44K to 19.6, another 50% drop. That doesn't have to necessarily happen, right? It did happen in the past, right? We did have our Corona crash over here, or we did have the final capitulation over here after we had already come down quite a bit during this crypto winter. So it's definitely in the realm of possibilities. What's also possible is that we simply just go sideways for a pretty long time. There's a lot of possibilities. We might even take a pretty long time until we hit this 200-week moving average again, right? See this time period over here. This went from October 2015 all the way to December 2018. So more than 3 years. The last time we hit it was in March 2020. So maybe if the exact same thing here was to repeat again, we could see the price getting close to this line again around maybe June 2023, something like this. So in 1 to 1.5 years, that would happen if the history here would completely repeat itself. So this is simply an idea of where the absolute floor could be, how long we could potentially go sideways, how much we could potentially fall. I don't expect that we will go below this floor for an extended period of time, because this indicator, by the way, together with the regression chart, it is used by a lot of investors. And I do think if we ever see these kind of levels, if we ever go close to this, there will be a lot of people that are willing to buy, that are willing to pick up the pieces during a potentially very bearish time period. Now we are halfway through. We have discussed 3 of the 6 charts. If you enjoy this content so far, please give this video a like and consider also leaving a comment, because that would help the channel grow. YouTube's algorithm likes that a lot. Thank you. Let's go back to an on-chain chart over here. The market value to realized value Z-score. So this looks more complex than it actually is. It simply looks at the current market cap of Bitcoin and it subtracts the realized market cap. What's the realized market cap? It's simply a measure of when Bitcoin has last been moved. So say when all of Bitcoin moved today, then those two values would be equal, right? When all of the Bitcoin moved, say when Bitcoin was only at half the price it was today, then this would be 50% of that value. So realized value simply looks at what price has every Bitcoin of every wallet moved in the past, and it adds all of those wallet balances in this number. What we then also do is we divide by the standard deviation of the market cap, simply to adjust for heightened volatility in the early days and less volatility in the recent past. And so what we can notice is that this value gets really high during times of excitement, right? And the same is true the other way around. It gets really low during times where we might be potentially cheap. So this is somewhat of a good gauge to figure out where we are in the cycle. It's not perfect, right? This peak over here didn't happen in this red area. Here we have overshot the red area. Here we have just barely reached the upper band, and here during spring of 2021 we haven't even reached the band. So it's just a rough gauge, but still I think it's very useful, and this is where we are currently. We are not in a historically cheap level. We are comparatively cheap, right? The Corona crash was way more profitable. The final crash of the crypto winter was also way more profitable. But only buying during those times is probably not a good idea, right? You've got regular cash flows that you can save up, and nobody can time the market perfectly, right? These tops, they don't happen always at the same extension, and those bottoms might also not happen at the same extension, right? One might argue that you could have missed this Corona crash here if you just took those prior crashes as a reference, right? Because during each of those crashes, we went below the green band over here. Not so during the Corona crash. So timing this perfectly and always hitting the exact top and the exact bottom is pretty much impossible. And so right now, at least historically speaking, it doesn't look like we are overheated. According to this measure, we are comparatively cheap. The current value is at, let's zoom in over here, 1.47. Let's go back to a price chart. This is not the 4-year moving average, but the 2-year moving average. And on top of that, we've also got a multiplier. So this is a 5x from that moving average to indicate where we might be heated. Again, we see the recent top over here did not extend this 5-year multiplier from the moving average. So people try to front run these tops, and maybe people even try to front run the bottoms at some point. So maybe we simply get reduced volatility, which also might make sense given that the market cap of Bitcoin is now pretty large already, right? So it simply takes more money to make the price move. These are all logarithmic scales, right? This was just a few cents, $1, $10, 100, 1,000. So moving from here to here is way easier in terms of capital involvement than from here to here. And so maybe the volatility is simply declining further, and so we won't necessarily extend above the red line anymore or crash that much below the green line. Currently, the green line is at 31K, the red line is at 155K, and historically it was always a great time for accumulation to buy whenever we are below the 2-year moving average. So we had multiple months usually to buy below that level. So whenever we really see prices of 31K and below, we are probably at the right point in time to heavily invest again. Here comes the last chart, the realized HODL ratio. So again, a measure of how active the market is, if there's rather short-term or long-term money in the market. So how many wallets or how many dollars are in wallets that moved in the last week versus wallets that moved in the last 1 to 2 years. And so when this is very high, right, there's a lot of active trading, a lot of money in the 1-week wallets. When this is very low, a lot of money is in the 1 to 2 year wallets, not a lot of speculation happening. And that's where you want to buy. You want to buy when the attention is low, when the speculation is low, and you want to sell when everybody gets excited. And this here shows we are neither extremely expensive nor very cheap. The good thing though is that this is further declining, right? Relatively rapidly even. So again, another zoom. The top here happened in the middle of November, basically. And since then, within 4 months, we went very steeply down. If this just continues another 4 months, we might be back in the green. It's interesting, right? Because this continues to fall while the price actually increased. So what does this all tell us? Bitcoin isn't in any kind of extreme situation right now. It's rather cheap than expensive. It's pretty much impossible to time the perfect bottom or the perfect top. But in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not a bad idea to buy now and hold for, say, 2 or 3 years. A lot of models say that if we buy now and we hold for 2 or 3 years, we are likely going to make money. We are likely going to make a positive return. If you enjoyed this content, you're very likely also going to enjoy the exclusive content at thebitcoinstrategy.com. Link is in the video description. We've got daily market updates. We've got videos on how to interpret data, on how to build technical indicators. There's also an exclusive chat where you can ask me any questions. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe as well. I publish videos regularly. And last but not least, feel free to also check out the public Telegram group. Simply search for Bitcoin Strategy Channel within the Telegram app. Be careful though, there are people that impersonate me, that message you directly once you join over here. I'm not going to sell you anything when you join this. I'm not going to message you. These are scammers that want to take away your crypto. So be careful. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye-bye.